Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to today's Inbound Lunch Bunch for January 2017, if you can believe it. We are just squeaking into January, but it's been quite a month, I think we'll all agree. So we're going into, if you can believe this, excuse me, our third year of Inbound Lunch Bunch. And what's exciting about it is we just continue to build out the topic series. We continue to have a lot of interaction, and we have more and more and more people interested every month. So a couple of housekeeping notes about Inbound Lunch Bunch and about what we're going to aim to get through today. So today's topic is using webinars for lead generation. I'm going to talk a little bit about what this session is predicated on, and then we'll go from there. And then I'm also going to kind of give you a couple of housekeeping notes and also a request. So a couple of things here. We have a lot of resources available. Like I said, we've got all of last year's, all of 2015's, and then it's all located on our website under HighRoad U, which is our learning initiative. We also have a whole other set of resources out there, including downloadable toolkits, which are templates to help you better your association marketing and help you to jump ahead. There's also a lot of industry research that we've done. So we have analyst briefs from last year, etc. And we have our State of Digital Marketing and Associations report. And just a note on that one, we are opening up our participation in this year's 2017, actually starting tomorrow. And so if you participate, you'll likely get an email from us asking to participate in that. And what that is a pretty in-depth actually survey. And again, we're going into multiple years of doing this, where we really are looking at, we saw a need to understand in the association marketing world, what's happening in digital marketing. And we didn't really see a report that existed out there that was both specific to associations and was bigger than email, because so much has just been focused in on email. So we undertook this initiative a couple of years ago to look at the state of digital marketing and associations, because we knew it was on the move. And what we have seen every year is that the steady increase of some of these, what we call key indicators, that show our evolution into really marketing automation. We've now been able to substantiate that with data. So not just us having a gut feeling, us really now being able to say, yes, we are truly in the age of marketing automation. Is usually the platform that you use, but that's not a thing, that's a tool. It's really, we're in the age of inbound marketing, which is the methodology. So that's going to open up. Your participation is greatly appreciated, because then we get a better sense of what everybody's doing, and we have now year-over-year comparisons to be able to look at. The last piece of that is typically we have been releasing it at ASAE's annual meeting in August. This year, we have decided to actually truncate our collection period for the survey analysis piece and actually release it at this year's Membership Marketing and Communications Conference at ASAE, because we think this is becoming the conference to go to. I really think that if you're in marketing, communications, that this is a conference that this year you should circle and find a way to get on into DC to participate in, because it is such a incredibly dynamic time in association marketing. It's kind of like our time, and there's a lot of more emphasis and buzz in there, and people are really looking to reinvest with their tool sets and talk about their marketing technology stacks and what this kind of world looks like as associations are now adopting. We're past the point of saying, 2 years ago we were talking about what is marketing automation. We're now really talking about people, they're into adoption now. Okay, like they've budgeted for it, or they're in the process of budgeting, and they're doing it. And so now people are really getting their hands in there and want to be able to have more topics around that. So we are going to do that at the Membership and Marketing Conference, and our State of Digital Marketing and Association seems like an ideal place to pull all that together. So that's coming up as well. And then one last housekeeping note on the AAE side. If you're not aware, there is something called the Gold Circle Awards. HighRoad, I'm proud to say, is a sponsor of that awards program. We have no finagling as to the winners at all whatsoever, but we do support it because we believe that association marketing is probably one of the hottest titles out there and hottest kind of disciplines in association practice, and we are trying to push it and promote it and support it as much as possible. And if your association is doing something that you think is wonderful in marketing communications, then we absolutely would encourage you to apply and get involved in that awards program to get your association recognized. It's a great program. We're trying to help promote it and do our part to get more organizations involved in submitting their own marketing communications work to get recognition from your peer panel. So that's another kind of piece coming up. If I should drop off, if I have some interruptions in my internet, hang tight, it'll come back, I'll dial back in, etc. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them to the chat window, and we'll try to go ahead and answer those. But again, we do all of these on demand, so these are recorded. We also post the slides that everybody always wants to have a copy of. All of those pieces are available through HighRoad U under our specific area for Inbound Lunch Bunch, again, as well as all of our past resources. Okay, so trying to get as much information out there as possible. All right, so I was saying one piece today, we're moving into talking a little bit more depth about using webinars as lead generation techniques. And webinars, again, are not new to the association market by any stretch of the imagination, though they do tend to, you've been in the association market like I have for, you know, I don't know, going on 20 years, you see that there is some ebb and flow of popularity of webinars and when they come and go. We are definitely on the high tide now. The webinars are super hot again, and it is primarily now not from necessarily a non-dues revenue perspective, but very much so from adding it back into the portfolio or doing more from a lead generation perspective. So what I'm showing you on the screen right now is that today's talk is predicated on a webinar that we did previously that's on using webinars for lead generation. So that's a little bit more of the blocking and tackling of the fundamentals of why webinars are so great. I'm going to gloss over and kind of recap about some of the salient points there, but then we're going to get into a little bit more talk about the inbound piece of it, of why webinars are great for inbound marketing. But that's all there on HighRoad U too if you want to backtrack and listen to that webinar, skim through the slides, etc. Okay? All right, so again, recapping from our previous and building on, what we said in the last webinar is that we identified, now there's more than 5 elements, but there's 5 what we think critical elements that make webinars really great for lead gen. We're going to go through those again, I said at a rapid pace. It's the only pace I like, rapid pace to go through there and talk about what those are. But in a nutshell, 5 elements allows you to really get a taste of the organization. So it's a little bit try before you buy. There's a value exchange that takes place. You can't beat it for measurement. So again, why do marketers, if you get to know digital and you look at traditional kind of marketing, why do you love digital? Because it is infinitely more measurable, okay? And usually even the additional time investment, or if there's additional time investment, it's well worth it for the insights that you get and the ability to do the reporting and not guess, right? You actually have actionable data. Certainly, webinars are phenomenal for understanding the buyer's journey. We'll talk a little bit more in depth on that, and it's a great entry point to follow up. So again, just doing a refresher on this, a common theme throughout all of our inbound lunch bunches is really getting down to brass tacks about today's consumer and being able to scrutinize how we market and what we're putting out there, how we market and how we communicate, 2 different things, how we actually do that to understand in today's consumer viewpoint, understanding the consumer, the less than 4-second attention span, the ability to do 70+% of their buying decision making online before they ever talk to you, looking at the typical consumer trust their friends and word of mouth over what you, the brand, are trying to convince them of. All these factors lead up to a persnickety consumer who is inundated with information and choice and has lots of transparency when it comes to pricing, etc. So it's a very cluttered space, right? And you really now, we've talked about over and over, you have to do something to not only stand out. First and foremost, you got to find a way to get in front of them and stand out and differentiate yourself, but you also have to be able to give them something of real value from the get-go. And this idea of this promise that if you just give us, your membership dollars, if you just sign up for our conference, if you just go ahead and trust that we are the XY American Association of X, Y, and Z brand for 100 years, that all's going to be well. Unfortunately, that trust factor no longer exists for the typical consumer. That's not the nature of the typical consumer, especially as you go typically down in the age group. So what does work for this consumer that we talk about, really understanding and scrutinizing, if we look at today's consumer and we look at all the ways that we are marketing, and marketing again, difference between marketing and communication. Marketing is how we're pricing, how we're positioning, how we are placing in the market, how we are promoting. If we look at kind of the 4 to 5 P's of marketing, and then we look at how we communicate it out to each of those different kinds of the different target audiences that we have set upon, can we really say that we are giving something out there that they can make a decision on, right? Is there enough out there in digital that they can make a 70% of their decision? And the goal in today's world of inbound marketing or digital marketing is that to take that number and say, look, if you're going to make 70% of your decision online based on what you're reading about me, watching about me in video, what other people are saying, well, when you actually get to my website and you're actually doing this evaluation process, you're 70% mine. So a lot of people get scared about digital marketing because they think, oh no, it's never going to work. But if I can actually get you to my website, if I can actually get you there, and we're going to talk about why webinars work for that. If I can get you there, instead of thinking, oh, I'm never going to win you, think of it this way. Glass is, half full or half empty. Half full, 70% full. You're 70% on my side, interested in me, looking about my organization. It's the 30%, the way to think about it is, what's the 30% that's the turnoff that's stopping you from making the purchase with me? So instead of focus, it's a different way to think of it. We need to invert our thinking in association marketing often. So what we need to focus in on is, if this individual out there that we do not know, if they are evaluating us, if they are scrutinizing us, if they are researching us, and we can see that activity and we can identify that there is an individual human out there who's interested in us, we need to know we are increasing the amount that they want to come to us, 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%. And we need to focus in as the association brand on the 30% or so that's stopping them from making the commitment, that's stopping them from taking the next step in the buyer's journey. And that should be our full focus. What we want to know is, how can we attract them? How can we kind of bring them in? And then what can we do to allow them to have reassurance that what we're telling them is actually true? And the key there is, we can't talk to them anymore. We can't convince them enough. I can't give you enough words in the world to convince you to be able to say, we want to do business with HighRoad Solution, etc. What we can do, though, is allow you to try before you buy. And that is one of the fundamentals of why webinars are one of the top, I'm going to say almost top, maybe the number one way to allow you on scale to be able to have individuals try the brand before they buy. It might mean ungating some good content, but it certainly means you are giving that potential consumer out there an opportunity to really experience what the brand is about, right? Are you delivering on the brand? Instead of me telling you, HighRoad's mission is to make all association marketers, X, Y. Why don't I just teach you and say, hey, look, here's free education. You can decide for yourself if you think I've got the chops, right? You can decide for yourself if you think I'm doing a sales pitch, I'm actually authentic, I actually am legitimate, I really know what I'm talking about, etc. Because the experience we have today on Inbound Lunch Bunch, if you are our client, would be the same experience, right? So we're allowing you to try before you buy. That's why we do the Inbound Lunch webinar series. What's the downside for us? Maybe you come and you want to work with us. Maybe you don't, and you just take our, education and you become a better you. That's good too. We're here to do good work. So whatever it is though, this idea of letting the individual on their own, respecting them, understanding I'm not going to cajole, coerce, convince them, change their mind. They're a grown adult doing their own research, etc. And that really the types of consumers I want nowadays are the types of customers, right? The types of members, donors, attendees, registrants, etc. that I want are the ones that want me. That's a difference. So it's no longer kind of that the emphasis is not on sales and closing and just getting you into a deal, because that has high churn. What the emphasis is on the piece about how can I actually establish these relationships longer term, right? So we're moving from a world of quantity to quality. And part of that is just because when it talks about gaining new members or registrants and donors, well, we're in a little bit of a lull if we're going down market on the age. We're in a lull because not all of the millennial generation is yet into the workforce. So we just don't have as many people there to pull from yet, maybe that has the propensity for us to purchase our products and services. So what we want to focus in on though, back to the webinars, is that webinars are an incredible opportunity to basically, prove what you're worth, right? To put it out there. It's the chance to say, okay, you go ahead, we're going to put out the content, and you can see for yourself the value it is to be a member of the American Association of X, Y, and Z, right? By being able to actually practice what you preach, it allows the individual, and you're respecting the consumer, that they are going to be able to make informed decisions, that they are going to be able to say they're smart, the user is smart, and that the right people will attract to the right brand, right? And that's what you want, because that's going to decrease churn and it is going to increase retention, okay? What it does do is it also, when we have that acquisition piece of it, what we're trying at the end of the day is to understand how can I spend the least money possible, right, to acquire the most, name what you want to say, members, donors, customers, registrants, constituents, etc. How can I do that at the least amount of cost? And again, digital and webinars helps us to basically have a sieve where I can sort through, I can filter through maybe all these people and find out who are maybe the 2 to 20 or 10 or whatever your volume is that I should really focus in on and understand where everybody else falls. And that's okay. And we're okay with that, right? What we're trying to understand is how can we be a better service, provide a better relationship and more meaningful value exchange between us and the right individual who really is seeking us. So we have an amazing member coming on board who's going to stay, etc. Okay? So that's kind of the idea of try before you buy. And the other piece of try before you buy is that last bullet point there, decreases buyer's remorse, and that is intimately tied with churn. So we talk about we need to go get new members, we need to gain new event registrations. We're all happy when we get those new people. Everybody's overjoyed. But if every year your difference between year 1 and year 2, and you're trying to do year 1 acquisition for a new conference to year 2, and you're starting from scratch every year, there's an issue there, right? And trying before you buy also helps to set the appropriate expectations. It helps to reduce buyer's remorse. So they have a sense of what they're getting into. And what it does is it allows you to actually amplify, accelerate. You can accelerate the relationship and get right into it, so that instead of, between the gap between year 1 and year 2 and membership, you're still trying to convince them, at the December of year 1, why they should renew for year 2. Instead, you're already moving into really engagement tactics, right? So this try before you buy webinars is an amazing way to really get people in there. Okay, so we also talked about it's a value exchange, right? So in the world now of digital, the consumer is not stupid. Consumer is wicked smart, and they know the difference. They can sniff out the difference between I'm being sold to and I'm being educated to, or what's in it for me, very quickly. So a webinar allows you to have a value exchange. Today's world gets that My email address is kind of the keys to communicating with me as an individual out there in the digital landscape. So they get that if you fill out a registration form and I'm submitting my email address and I'm giving you information, they get that in lieu, in exchange for that, I'm supposed to get back some sort of content that's worth my while. There is nothing worse, and I'm curious maybe the fears that some associations have. There's nothing worse than getting onto a webinar and you think it's going to be this great topic, and it's like it just devolves into some, I don't know, sales pitch or like really basic stuff, and nobody told you the expectations for like what type of user this was for, etc. So a value exchange, though, now on the converse, if you fill out the form and I provide you a really great webinar full of value, chock full of little tidbits, then we have a great experience, right? We're starting out, again, we're accelerating our relationship forward. So the value exchange webinar is already a process that's helping me to get further down the line of becoming, how can we decide if we're going, what type of relationship we're going to have together? And that's the key there. So the association brand is always trying to understand for all of these anonymous and individuals out there, if I have a webinar, I can bring you in, get your email address, and start to know you. So I can understand as the association brand how I should respond to you, how I should treat you, how often we should communicate. Again, what kind of relationship we're going to have. The other piece there is that a webinar truly has some value to it. The content obviously is good, but it truly has the format of it is worth it. Today's world, you got to have something that's worth it, especially in inbound marketing. You're always looking for what would be, what we call the hook. What would be the reason somebody would give you their email address, knowing you're going to communicate with them, right? Knowing that if you give the email address, they're going to get an email, right? So knowing that piece of it, what can we use that's going to be valuable enough for someone to take the time to fill out a form and provide their email address, which is saying, right, I'm opting in to having a relationship in some shape or format with you, okay? But at least I'm open to it, right? We need to see where it goes, but I'm open to it. I'm willing to give up my email address and have your emails come back into my inbox and see what else we have that maybe we can get going together. So a webinar really allows you to have that value exchange between the association brand and this individual and get to start to know each other, kind of build a digital rapport, right? And they're great for that. Third piece is they're easy to measure, right? I mean, not hands down, easy to measure. We can see basically from the time you hit the web page that has to do with registering from a webinar, or maybe like, actually retweeted something, all the way through registration, all the way through actually attending the webinar, all the way to the post kind of event kind of evaluation, the whole way through. So webinars in themselves already are a great little digital campaign with multiple touch points that I can measure. So I can understand, okay, you signed up and you signed up for all of our webinars, but you never show up. Okay, but you actually come and watch it later on Thursdays. Okay, you came and you register, but you hop off after 7 minutes, right? And you never come back. There's so much we can understand about webinars, and they give you so many touch points in one great little package that is what we call, digital marketers consider webinars a great petri dish. They're a great thing that we can actually say, here's the topic, let's see who we attract, and let's go ahead and study, right, everything that's within this petri dish, because it's a nice contained environment where we can really understand who's there, what they're there for, what can we do more, where are they in the buying cycle, etc. So they have a lot of touch points if you think about everything I just said. How do you promote it, the emails about it, the registration, the actual using, attending and consuming the content, evaluations, survey forms, referral forms, on and on. Great way to measure. We're talking about where they are in the buyer's journey. So webinars are great because we have control, because a webinar itself is just a format, and it's just really, it's a channel for how to distribute content. But where we also have the total control is about what topic we're putting out into that channel, right? So by knowing what topic, we can we can test out where people are in the market of understanding this topic. So for example, we could put out a topic that's about, you're new to the industry, you're new to the profession, you're just learning about it. I'm interested in maybe being a dentist. whatever the case may be in your particular association. But I can put out particular topics that go with, right, my different kind of places of maybe personas or different segmentation of who I'm trying to attract. And I can really be able to study that in depth. Understand, is it the right topic? Are those the people I wanted to attract? How can I move them down the funnel? And even by virtue of maybe feedback that you get from evaluations, you can say, you know what, whoa, that was way over the top. I didn't know. 2 years ago, we started doing this. We got a lot of people saying, wow, this is really advanced. This is, I need to step back. We broke out a different series. We bucketed those people into a different bracket. All of those kinds of things about a webinar allows you, because you have topic control, you can actually put that out and then understand all of these kinds of pieces. So you can say, by virtue of putting out this topic, people that come to this topic are looking for, let's say, they're looking to understand how they can advance their career, or they're looking for how they can change careers, or whatever would be appropriate to your association. But that topic control allows you to really kind of do a test and target about where people are in their purchase behavior. Last piece we talked about in more depth is it's a great entry point to follow up. A lot of associations, again, I've had a human willingly giving me their email. They have attended or they haven't attended, but it's a natural progression to say, hey, here's your follow-up materials. Do you want to do the next thing, right? Is there a next step that we want to take? Because see, we establish some sort of relationship. We have the starting point of a relationship. We basically exchange phone numbers, right? We have some starting point from which we can build, and now it's on us, the association, to figure out how we can nurture those people on. But webinars provide a great, like, low to no cost, low point of entry for somebody who doesn't know you, low risk. They can come in, they can get a sense for you. It's like a free trial class. They get a sense for you, they get to understand it, and they know you're going to follow up. So the expectation's set, they're not shocked. And then we can see if we can go from there, right? We might want to ask, where are you, and are you looking to do X, Y, and Z? And understand right off the bat, right, what's appropriate for that person. And that's the key. The key as the association brand is, what we don't want to do as our entry point is just start selling, right? What we want to understand is it's a new relationship. We want to nurture it and understand, how does the user want to interact with us, all right? And that is, again, a very user-centric viewpoint, which is today's world, today's consumer world is user-centric. They have the power. So we as the association need to constantly be asking questions, not afraid to ask questions, not afraid to say, are we sending too many emails? Is this what you want? Do you want this on a Friday? Is it on a Thursday? All those things, because it's under the auspices that we're trying to take care of them, right? That our job is to flex to the user, right? And our job is not to gain an email address and abuse them with email and pound on them until they buy, right? So that's push marketing. We're trying to sit here and understand, hey, look, we're trying to have a relationship with you. We're trying to know everything about you we can. What are the topics? What are your preferences? How do you want to do this? And all those are great ways that I can go ahead and follow up. And webinars provide a perfect launch point for that. Not only do I know if they attended or not, I know, the time they came, I know the topics they were interested in. I can suggest other topics that are like that they also might be interested in. There's just endless ways that I can have additional pieces that I can continue to drive value to that individual. Okay, so when we last talked about it, we really talked about the idea of promoting webinars. And this one I want to talk about in a little bit depth, because this is going to launch off into talking about inbound in particular. So in promoting webinars, on the left-hand side, if you look at your screen real quick, I've got email lists and website posting. Those are the two go-tos. We're going to put up a new webinar, and we're going to send out an email to say, hello, it's time for the webinar. We all do this. There's nothing wrong with that. And then come back to some sort of website posting to register. I put it out on a calendar, etc. Okay, that's the total classic. Of course, we're going to do that. And again, with inbound marketing, the purpose is to understand that at the end of the day, inbound truly is we're trying to get people we don't know to participate in the webinar, right? That's what we're trying to do. Try before you buy. We're trying to gain new people, new subscribers, new email subscribers, if you will. So in order to do that, we have to have their email address. So that's a problem. My emails I can send out to people I already know. And hopefully my emails there are getting more and more hyper-personalized and I'm communicating better to them. But that's okay. We've got that. The problem is we can't send email to people we don't have their email address for. And as you guys have heard us talk about for years and years, the days of going out and just buying an email list and blasting them with this webinar, not so much anymore. So we have to find a different way to do that. So what I put on the right-hand side is all the things that we really should be doing from an inbound marketing side to promote our webinars. If you want to think about this, you can bucket all of this under acquisition, right? So if we truly want to grow and we want to acquire, and you just fill in the blank, members, donors, customers, partners, you know, on and on and on, registrants, we need to be in this red world over here. We need to be in places where we can get in front of people that we can target, not just anybody, but people that are in our target scope, and then we can put out messages that are going to resonate with them and get in front of them to say, hey, we've got this, in this case, free webinar, right? We've got content in your interest area that you can obtain and get to know us, right? So it's like saying it's having a free trial, it's having a free, you know, again, try before you buy kind of thing. And that's what they're doing. You're offering basically a free class. You know, it's a way to come in and understand, you know, is this going to be the right place for me? So the ways to do that really are, I mean, there's more than this, but we're talking strictly digital right now and direct mail, to throw that in there. But what we're doing here is I'm highlighting the fact that so few of us really take advantage of these channels. And back to my State of Digital Marketing and Associations report, one of the things that I look at year over year very, very closely is who's increasing their budget in paid advertising, social media, SEO, you know, those kinds of things. Who's increasing that? Because when you start seeing that increase, that's when you know lead generation is starting to get serious. Because we have to be able to get out in front of people and target people we don't know who aren't aware of our association brand to bring them in so we can nurture them. And that's the only way we're going to be able to do that in a world where you really can't go and buy email lists and things like that. And what you see is that, again, year over year, it is climbing up. We're seeing an increase in that, but it is very, very incremental. So what we need to see is a big boost in that. So we talk a lot about our marketing budgets and moving more to digital. Most of our marketing budgets that we have out there in the association world have been built for maintenance. They've been built for maintenance, and they're usually running like 2 to 3% of your, of your revenue for that particular year. All right, that is a maintenance budget. You can do it on a maintenance budget if you cut out something else. So you'd have to reallocate something. So likely things that can go by the wayside maybe are print, big ticket items, cutting down on websites, cutting down on other pieces of big technology, association management systems, things like that. But if you don't have a budget that can open up for growth and you have to do it within a maintenance budget, then obviously you're going to have to reallocate some things. And what most associations say is, we're locked. We can't do it. There's just no room for that. So there are some things out there like LinkedIn and Google AdWords obviously have some programs for nonprofits if you qualify and things like that. But the key where I'm going with this is that we need to, because budgets happen so early, they're so long-term in association, you don't have a lot of flex room. As you're planning your budget for the going year, take a look at that State of Digital Marketing Association report. Start looking at what a new normal would look like in a growth strategy, right? If I'm in a marketing growth strategy and I need a marketing budget that's designed to grow, I need a budget that's more like 8 to 14% of net revenue of what I'm getting every year, right? What we're making as an organization. That is astounding to many a marketer and many a CFO out there, is that that's what you're going to need to be able to really grow. And it's new for them too, so we need a lot of education. We need a lot of education for our finance people, for administrators, et cetera, because it's not the same world as it used to be. And we're moving kind of again from email, which has been commoditized and made ultra cheap, to really marketing automation. which is back to you're paying really for context and is not as cheap as email marketing, right? So something to think about, but we need to figure out a way we can get some money to put into our paid advertising, et cetera. And we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth. Some of these, obviously, we can continue to use and they don't have a cost other than our time and labor, like social media and things like that. But I want to get into talking about this the red area here, which is, again, at the end of the day, it's the ability to get in front of people legally who don't already know us. And I left in here at the bottom one, direct mail and affiliates. Direct mail, there's no issue that I can go buy a list of, you know, household names, or I can target my list, I can buy a list and mail you something. We don't have any issues with that. You can go and do that. That's a great lead gen technique. Absolutely. You can get super targeted lists. You can do a great, you know, postcard. Direct mail is hot again because people have cut down on it, so it tends to stand out. Again, the cost is always the factor, right? That's going to be a far more expensive push, but it might be quite effective depending, again, on who you're targeting, if you can really target that message. So I leave direct mail because it's important. Let's not forget about that, right? Direct mail can be extremely powerful, but I would say it's more powerful. One of the things I have to tell you that I just go, oh, is when I constantly get postcards and brochures from organizations to promote their conferences, and I'm already a member of, because they could have saved that money and gone, that's me, the marketer. They could have saved the money and gone after people that didn't know them through direct mail. And I feel like, you know, there should be an understanding that once you're a member, you know, everybody's trying to be fiscally responsible. And I tend to not see that as fiscally responsible to send me all this, you know, incredibly expensive direct mail brochures on conferences, et cetera. You know, when I'm already kind of in the door and saying I'm with you with our mission here. So just a thought. I also included affiliates, right? So we're definitely working into a world where partner or channel marketing, as it's called, is more and more important, and it's a bigger specialty that you're seeing starting to come into the association world, whether you call it vendor relations or you have some other kind of name for it. But the ability to be able to market to and through partners is critical for lead gen. Because of that word of mouth piece, it's very, very important that we are able to look at that too. Okay, so let's go ahead and focus on that. So promoting webinars for lead gen. I've given you a laundry list of all sorts of things that kind of fall into, I broke it out because we tend to just say social media. But social media has so many components. And of course, this is not an extensive nor exhaustive list of social media channels that you could use. But I thought I'd list some of those out there as kind of a self-check to say, are you using these things? Have you thought about using these things? And for most of these, you can either do these as kind of freemium plays, or you can also pay in and have some, you know, more paid placement of content of your ads and whatnot. But a good way to check to say, you know, hey, have we been using AdRoll, right? And it doesn't have to be AdRoll, but it's some sort of retargeting campaign for my webinars. Have we been using our blogs to do that, right? Have we been putting up maybe an infographic after the webinar before to look at, you know, kind of top things about this particular industry and put it up on Pinterest? Pinterest is amazing how much traffic you can get off of Pinterest and get people eyes, and you can get yourself in front of eyes that didn't know you before and help again to create brand awareness. So this is just an entire laundry list, again, not extensive, not exhaustive, of all the kind of places that you can use for lead gen, right? And the key here is that here's something to think about. You could either promote and do both individual webinars and really do a lot of push behind it, or maybe you have an entire webinar series that you want to go ahead and put a graphic design to and be able to promote out there to the world. So get to know us by this particular series, right? Do you want to be a X, Y, and Z specialty doctor? You know, do you want to be a, you know, this type of writer? Whatever it is, and get it out there that's something that's open enough that you'll attract a great crowd, but then it'll pull you in and you'll be able to, again, put them through that filter to understand, are these the people we're looking for, okay? But so often what I see is that you might, again, put out one individual tweet to know hashtags that people would be following to talk about your webinar. And again, we're in this closed loop of promotion. So we want to have these out there. We want to get in front of people that didn't know us, but that we can target. For each one of these channels, I have the ability to do all sorts of targeting within there. And a lot of us, again, just aren't aware of that. I can target based on my Facebook ads in Admiral. I can target based on topics. I can target based on industry. I can target based on geographics, of where they're located, et cetera, in almost all of these, okay? And so that really helps us to be able to do that. The one thing I still want to go back to is say, keep thinking about, could I do a whole series of webinars that's going to lead somebody down exactly the buyer's journey that I want? So I can right off the bat promote it and understand that I can really look at a conversion funnel from the get-go. So maybe you're trying to, get people to become a CPA, become this type of certification of a type of writer. You're really trying to get people to say, are you interested in going back to business school, whatever. Why not create a series to say, am I this person? Is this for me? And you have an entire series of webinars that's going to get perhaps increasingly more involved and increasingly closer to the product or service that you're offering, right? That would help you to really discern very quickly, and then you can market the entire series as one nice chunk. So you have one nice chunk that you're putting out on Twitter and a banner ad and Instagram, et cetera. You can kind of create a whole package of content around it, put it out there. That's one heck of a petri dish. Now we can really study and understand people as they're coming through the funnel. We can understand where they are, where they're falling off, etc. And webinars can help us on each one of those pieces, especially like we use Zoom for all of our stuff. Gives you the video well. You might have the chat capabilities, the discussion pieces as well. It doesn't have to be so, just looking at slides. I mean, it could be in real time, live streamed, and you're really talking Facebook Live, etc. You're really, again, having a tremendous amount of value, all right? All of those kinds of pieces, though, again, we're coming back to the inbound idea of what's the purpose really. And I found this graphic, and I thought, it's so simple, but it's such a good way to understand the spatial relations, if you will, or how the individual, how we need to put all of these pieces out there in the world. So look up for a second at your screen and think about it this way. So all of these little social channels, the whole laundry list, all of those are out there in a tree, right? They're all out there, and there's no one right way, right? If I'm a bird and I'm flying by, I might pick any number of branches, upon which to alight, right? I might decide to drop in all sorts of different ways, and it doesn't matter. That's why I have, right, blossoms all over the tree and not just on one side of the tree, or fruit throughout the tree, because no matter who I'm trying to attract, I better have something, right, for this particular, animal, etc., coming my way, okay? Same idea. I want to create a tree. My tree, the base of my tree is my brand, right? That's what I'm all about, my roots. I've got my roots there, 100-year-old roots perhaps, and I'm being able to create this wide canopy to be able to attract as much goodness as I can. And so on all of my branches there, that's what hangs all of these different little digital channels, okay? So think of it from that way. If you just look really quickly, we have all sorts of ways that a user could understand, how can I interact with the tree? The tree is your brand. How can I interact with them? Oh, look, I could get to know the tree through Twitter. I could get to know you through Facebook. I could be able to listen to a podcast. I can look at Instagram. I could get email from you. I could see some of my friends shared something about you through some other way. I could see something about your e-commerce site. I could have searched for you using Google or Bing. I could have heard it word of mouth from my friend. It said, you really need to check this out. I could have seen it as somebody liked you on Instagram and I'm following them. I could have seen it on YouTube and you popped up. You see? So all of these ways, the whole purpose of inbound marketing, the whole purpose is to use all of these branches, figure out which ones work for you, and then put them out there to attract people that don't know you. That's the whole purpose, right? And the association market we have been so long trained in engagement. We're not letting go of that. We still want it, but we want to pause for a second on engagement. We want to talk about attraction, right? We've got to do attraction. Attraction is Lead generation. That's what it is. Lead generation, and how do I get people from the point that they don't know me to converting in to they become some sort of customer, right? And that could be, again, if you don't like the word customer, you're like, oh, it could be member, or donor or registrant, etc. But the whole purpose of inbound marketing is to have this tree. And you already have the tree. You have the tree, you've got your roots, you've got your association brand. The whole purpose is to say, okay, of all the branches we put out there, do we need everything? What are the right things? Do some of the pieces work better for certain of our groups? How do these things map into who we're trying to attract, right? Do we want, is it come one, come all? We're just doing some big advocacy campaign and any human, any shape, size, age, et cetera, is a target for it? Or are we really kind of talking about a specific niche of people? For most associations, we have a very specific niche of people that we're really doing niche marketing that we're trying to, attract you to do. So think of the tree, and that's how this then all starts to make sense. Because I think when you're in digital, if you don't have kind of it's very abstract. If you don't have kind of a visualization in your mind, if you don't have kind of a mental model of what these things are doing and how they fit together, it can be a little bit disorienting. It can be very disorienting. So I think this tree is a great model. So we have our base, and again, just to reiterate, the root, the trunk there, and your roots are your association brand. It's what you stand for. Okay, that's your elements. You have to stand for something, and your type, your species, if you will, is what differentiates yourself. Okay, then you're going to put out there all of these kinds of different attracting pieces, if you will, your fruit, your blossoms, that's going to help to attract individuals in. And then ultimately what we're trying to do here is pull them into right there in the middle. You see, right there in the middle, right there in the middle, right there is your website. So the main kind of piece that goes right down into the trunk, right? The main piece that's connected, that gets all the nutrients and all the energy, is the website. And think of your website as your digital advocate. So your brand essence is coming up through the tree. You're being able to showcase that out to the world to attract people. And ultimately, as you attract them, you're trying to bring them back to this website. Okay, that's a key piece. A key piece, because so often when we work with associations, we right off the bat, they start with, especially when they say we want to move to marketing automation, it's immediately, okay, we're going to send an email. Okay, that's great. We want to do that too. That's not lead gen. The first part of lead gen is you got to bring people to a website. Okay, so if you're starting with thinking about sending email out, you're already in retention, you're in engagement. Okay, different thing. You still use marketing automation absolutely for it, but that's not lead gen. Lead gen is starting with people we don't know, trying to bring them into us and to be able to convert them into on a website. Okay, so another way to look at it, entire goal of inbound marketing, bring new people back to a web page. That's the whole goal. So we're using whatever I just said, ad roll, blogs, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, assign a postcard, a big kind of a billboard, anything to bring them back to some sort of web page, right? That's the whole purpose. Get them back to a web page, and then to convert them into an individual that opts into your brand's communications. That's where webinars, again, the whole purpose is to get them back to this web page and get them to willingly give you their email address, right? Or opt into your brand's communications in some shape and form. Email address would be preferred because it's the most personal and I can do the most with it, and it's a permission-based marketing. But obviously, if they just like your page and start following you, well, that's a start. That's a start. We'll take that. But that's the goal of inbound marketing, right? Goal is to get that email address from that standpoint. So examples of web pages. Why web pages and examples? Web pages are, most organizations bring them right on back to the home page of your website and you dump them there. And then they're left to, they're kind of abandoned at the doorstep and they're trying to figure it out. What associations often do is to then lead them to a more direct page, right? And that might be like you have a microsite for you have an event conference coming up. It could be that you have landing pages. So landing pages are traditionally a web page that has a 4-minute, usually maybe a one-off offer. I want to download an ebook, etc. Or, wouldn't you know it, webinar event registration page, which is a type of landing page. So webinars, again, ideal for lead gen because I'm bringing that back. I'm using all these different kinds of mechanisms to bring me back to a web page, in this case, an event registration page, but it's still a landing page for a webinar that I can track. And why do you want web pages? Because of these three things. Ultimately trackable, I can gain their IP address, and I can drop a cookie. And all of marketing automation is built on the idea that if I can identify your IP address and I can drop a cookie on your machine, I can start to actually know you. And then if I get your email address, you've just done this magical thing, which is to move from anonymous to known. And that's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to, again, get to know people that are currently faceless to us and to be able to actually put a name to them. So instead of just being like, I don't know, this is, female in Columbus, Ohio at IP address, 19.465. whatever. It's like, no, it's Suzanne Carolyn, right, in Columbus, Ohio, and she's at this IP address, and she's interested in this topic, and she wants to go to our webinar, and she registered on a Saturday at 2 a.m., whatever, right? Okay. So that's the whole goal. So I want to be able to use these webinars to bring people back to a web page so I can start tracking right off the bat. I can track anonymous people. I know you have a face, but it's fuzzy to me yet. I don't know your name yet, okay? And I can start to actually profile you and start to say, okay, well, people that are of this IP address are located here, et cetera. I'm trying to constantly gain information in the digital world to put more details to your profile. I'm trying to build out a comprehensive profile. That's the whole purpose. And a lot of people get scared about that idea. It's been going on for a long time, and it's obviously you're in association with probably deep roots, et cetera. You're not going to use this for for bad purposes. It should be spelled out in your privacy policy how you're handling those pieces as well. But the purpose is for you to be able to do a better job in being able to sense and respond. So you're going to bring people. You have to get over it, I guess, where I'm going with that, because this is nothing new. But you're trying to bring people back to this webpage. And also all your, somebody asked me over at one of our clients, they said, we've got to do this marketing automation thing because all of our competitors are competing. They've got their own online bookstore, and they're competing really with Amazon. They're like, they're doing this. How can we compete in a world, like we're caught up in our own internal governance about these kinds of issues, and the world is passing us by and we're losing revenue share. Okay, so that's the nature of the beast that we're in. The whole goal, again, is bring new people back to a web page and start tracking them right off the bat, right? And then we want to convert them by getting them to opt into our communications. So we want to gain that email address and drop that cookie, and that is the magic from going from anonymous to known. So now I know that I am Suzanne Carolyn. I know all sorts of stuff about me. I can now start to search the social web and add information about me. I can pull out my title from LinkedIn. I can pull out information from my Facebook profile that's been made public, Twitter, et cetera, and I can start to use digital to compile this profile about this individual. And then the goal of the organization is to keep adding information about each individual profile so I get the most comprehensive profile possible. Right? And the goal there is to be able to still understand. So when it's time for me to do something new, or I want to serve my members better, I have all sorts of information at the ready, so I know ahead of time, right? I can plan more effectively. Should we have the seminar on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Let's look at the data and find out who said that works for them, right? Whose preference? Let's ask them. It gets me into that type of piece to lower down, again, my risk, increase my engagement. So again, we're leading people back to some sort of web page, typically has a form on it, and in here they're giving me their email address and probably more information. You're looking right now at one of our landing pages that does exactly that. In order to access our toolkit, we're asking for information, and exchange, we are giving you access to all of these on-demand webinars and toolkits, etc. Okay? So that whole idea is right there. I just went, as soon as I did this, at this point, the site knew my IP address, but once I put in my first name, last name, and more importantly, my email address, it dropped a cookie, and now I've gone to anonymous to a known user. Okay, and now I can build that profile and start to do a better job marketing. So once I'm through that gateway of the form, which again is my webinar event registration form in this case, once we do that, then we can now make really good decisions with this individual, especially in context of it being a webinar, because I already know the topic, I already know the date and time, I know when they registered. There's a whole lot of information that I know that I've gathered about that webinar. And once I get them through that gateway and I now know them, now I can decide how I want to treat them. Now I can put them in the appropriate nurture funnel and be able to treat them in the appropriate way, depending on all sorts of things. Maybe like their buying cycle, you know, their persona, where they came from, their experience level, et cetera, right? So I'm constantly trying to do goodness of fit between myself, the association brand, and this individual on the other side of their mobile device or desktop, where we can, again, build that relationship piece by piece. So webinars are an absolutely fantastic way to do that. And again, remember, so many of the typical metrics we get from webinars help us to be able to make those decisions. And again, figure out, now that I've got them through that was the big piece of inbound for webinars, get them through that event registration form. Now I've got all sorts of metrics that I can decide on what's the appropriate funnel to put them through, okay? That's the key there, is really thinking through the funnel. That's an area where most associations need to spend more time, right? So we spend a lot of time pushing, it's happening live, go, and we don't spend as much time thinking about, okay, once they registered, now what? Now how do we continue to move them along, okay? And that's a good growth area for all of us. So typical metrics we get to make better decisions. So in wrapping up for today of talking about webinars for inbound lead generation, we have built an entire kind of scenario of why webinars work great for lead gen. Bottom line, we are trying to get individuals into the door, if you will, into our tree, come land in the tree that we can study. So we can understand, is there a fit? What will work for you, the individual user that's opted into us? How can we put you in the right funnel, right? And how can we understand where we should spend our time as an association in being able to serve you? It is the antithesis, the absolute opposite of everybody's equal. It's absolutely the opposite. It's instead saying we need to have the appropriate response to those people that are out there, right? And we're trying to sense and respond. We're constantly putting out the signal, and we want a positive feedback loop with you all the time so we can move people along at their pace and what's appropriate to them, and keep our brand trust and our authenticity at an all-time high, right? That's really kind of where webinars and inbound lead generation fit together. That's everything we have for this month. Again, we'll follow up with all of our materials. I thank you very much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Inbound Lunch Bunch. I'm Suzanne Carolyn from HighRoad. Thank you.